Hi, everybody. We are so excited to have you here. Today's guest presenter is my good friend, Dr. Scott Munsterman. He's going to be talking about potential PHI vulnerabilities in EHR software, how to detect them, and what you can do about them. So we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to protect our patients' health information. So we're really excited to have one of our compliance experts here to talk about that with us today. So if you'll give me just a second, we'll bring on Dr. Munsterman and get started.
Well, thank you and welcome. This is Dr. Scott Munsterman, and it's good to get into a conversation once in a while in regards to protected health information. And as we all know, we have a lot of it within our clinic systems. And the thing to think about as we have this discussion about PHI and our EHR systems is to come to the realization that the preponderance of protected health information that we have in our possession resides within our EHR system, or at least is managed in a large degree by our electronic health record system. And so we're asking the question, is your EHR creating vulnerability to protected health information in your practice? And we're going to talk about what that means. And essentially, we will begin discussing and thinking about the regulatory environment and what are the HIPAA standards that we are under. And then specifically, we will gear right into and dive right into 10 key areas that the only way we can prove compliance to HIPAA law is for us to be able to demonstrate it through our EHR systems and make sure that our EHR systems are in fact allowing us to comply to those requirements. And so just a real quick refresher, as many of us are, I'm sure, are aware that the HIPAA standards or HIPAA rule broke up into the privacy rule and the security rule for protected health information. And of course, the privacy rule was developed back in the 1990s, and that laid the foundation for protected health information and how we went about protecting the use and the access and disclosure of PHI. It defined a record set. It defined the concept of minimum necessary uses and disclosures. And what that means is that when we have people within our organizations, within our practice, using PHI to do their work, or if we have a business associate, which would be an outside entity that maybe a billing company or maybe our IT people coming in and they're exposed or need access to a certain amount of PHI to do the work that we want them to do for us, well, we give them the minimum necessary and only the minimum necessary PHI for them to use. And so it's that concept, and that carries over in a number of key areas within the HIPAA regulations. Then we had the notice of privacy practices that we all utilize within our practice, that first time visit of our patients coming into the practice. We need to give them a notice of privacy practices, and then in turn have a disclosure form that we have them sign, because it is our way of validating that we did provide them that notice of privacy practices. And of course, the privacy rule laid the foundation on storing and transmitting PHI, and of course accounting of disclosure, among many others as well. Then along came the security rule. Now the security rule is primarily focused on ePHI, electronic protected health information. Now the security rules broke down into three key areas. We have the administrative safeguards, we have the physical safeguards, and we have the technical safeguards. And each one of these areas has key citations and regulatory components. For instance, with the administrative safeguards, is primarily concerned with how people do their work and how they protect it within the EHR systems or within the computer systems at large. And so it has more to do with more the people side of protecting PHI. And so yes, all these bullet points are citations that need to be followed and have policies developed specific to these citations. Now we're going to be pulling out several of these key ones, as what this discussion is all about is how do we comply to some of these through our EHR system, but that's the administrative safeguards. How often are you backing up? How often are you changing your passwords? These are things that we actually do to maintain our compliance, as well as login monitoring, which we're going to talk about later on in our session here. Then we have those physical safeguards. Now, what are those? Well, physical safeguards is the space to which the PHI resides. So whether that's your practice facility, whether it's a room that you have your computers in, or where maybe you store paper files, it is the workstation the desktop, the laptop, the iPad, if you have PHI that is either accessible and or is storing information on that. It could even be the flash drive or a mobile hard drive that you're backing data up on. That is a physical space, and there are citations or regulations concerning how do we take care of that physical safe so we can safeguard that PHI that resides inside of that space. Then we have technical safeguard standards, and of course the technical safeguard standards rely on our programming, our EHR systems to help us be compliant. For instance, we're going to talk about unique user IDs. We're going to talk about automatic log-offs. These are some key technical features that need to be available within the applications that we use, EHR system applications, network applications, and the like, that will help us curb access coming in, verifying access coming in, and help us not disclose, of course, information that should not be disclosed readily. And then we've all heard of security risk analysis, and this is the culmination of understanding and assessing what are the risks and vulnerabilities to the integrity of the PHI that we have in our possession within the practice. And so as covered entities, this is our job, our responsibility to protect protected health information. And so let's talk a little bit about the EHR system, because as we mentioned earlier on, in order for us to comply with HIPAA regulations, there are a number of key HIPAA regulations that the only way we can fully comply with it is for our EHR system to be able to help us do that and prove that. And we're going to speak in terms of applications and data criticality and backup planning, disaster recovery, how to authenticate, encryption and how important that is, unique user ID and access and passwords and log-offs and all of that. So let's just go ahead and dive right into that. And so the very first thing that we want to bring up, because it's so applicable, would be the data criticality analysis. And what this is all about is we have to step back and say, okay, what are those functions within our practice that are critical to the operation of protecting PHI? Well, first and foremost, it's our prime discussion right now. It's the focus of our discussion is EHR systems. That, as we mentioned, the lion's share of the PHI that is accessed and managed and stored in many cases relies on our EHR system. And so we just with this exercise that we're going through right now, we are assessing the performance by walking through and understanding how does this interface with HIPAA regulations, our EHR system, the functions that it can provide us, and then how do we move forward if we do have some vulnerabilities within the system. And so very key, number one, you are helping become compliant by listening and understanding this whole presentation in terms of the criticality of your system in regards to PHI. Then we have data backup, and of course the system that you currently have may be cloud-based, it may be server-based or on-premise technology. Some of the key things to think about along these lines is that for those doctors that are utilizing cloud-based EHR systems, they typically have the cloud-based backup and redundancy set up and are currently HIPAA secure. And so checking on that, making sure that you do get the data backup plan from your cloud-based vendor, from your EHR vendor, if they are cloud-based, is very important to have in your documentation. The key about backups is that you have to make sure you're backing up exact versions, exact copies, and that can be brought back to life in its exact form. And so verifying that periodically through a data integrity check, which needs to be done on a quarterly basis, is very key. Now, it's a lot easier to be able to do that through a cloud-based EHR system versus a server-based on-premise technology. Well, why is that, Scott? Well, first of all, if it's server-based on-premise technology, then you are the one that is responsible for that backup, number one, because you need to back it up on a hard drive. Secondly, you will want to store that backup off-site in the event that your building blew down or blew up or got on fire or whatever the case may be, and you need to protect that PHI so you can again bring it back to life. You are also then responsible for the data integrity checks to make sure that you do have exact versions, and you're also responsible in that type of technology for tracking the movement of that PHI that is on that mobile hard drive. And so there's a lot of responsibility behind server-based. There's a responsibility of making sure, number one, you have exact copies that you can verify, but then secondly is just the management of that system, and probably third, you think about cost. Is that many doctors that have server-based on-premise technology types of EHR systems also have a cloud backup at an extra cost. And so as you think about cloud-based versus server-based and getting your backup in the cloud, certainly those are some key features that you will be thinking about as you think about that. And of course, these data on the primary data volumes, important that is backed up into the backup storage. These point-in-time snapshots allow for that exact version of the data to be replicated. Third thing to think about that we need is that disaster recovery plan. Now, if your disaster recovery plan and you have a server-based technology, your disaster recovery plan is going to hinge on making sure that you have recent versions of your PHI backed up and that it is off-site and that you will be able to recover that and bring it back online. If you have a cloud-based EHR system, then guess what? Your backup disaster recovery plan is really your vendor's disaster recovery plan. And so the fact is that you need your vendor's disaster recovery plan. You need to know what that disaster recovery plan is. How are they going to manage that disaster recovery? Because that's your data. That is your disaster recovery plan. So keep that in mind, that if you have an EHR system that is cloud-based, you should have that disaster recovery plan in your hand so you know what will go down and what you need to do in order to recover that data. The fourth thing is the mechanism to authenticate electronic protected health information. And this is what we alluded to earlier, is that you need to have a system in place that checks for that data integrity. We need to be able to detect if there are any intrusions, and how do we measure the integrity's performance. We have to make sure that users can authenticate their access into the system and make sure that we are able to give the appropriate role access based on the information that they need. And so we're going to see some examples here a few slides down the road here that will show how this is done within an EHR system. Number 5 is encryption, making sure that your EHR system is encrypted, that it encrypts data in motion, and it encrypts data at rest. And so EHR technology and backup vendors need to provide the ability to encrypt data in motion and at rest both, and that's in conformance with the guidance that the HHS Health and Human Secretary's breach notification rule has been provided. And it states that we, as covered entities, must encrypt all electronic protected health information at rest in the facility's database and in motion with all outbound communications using secure technologies and methodologies. And so very key, getting validation from your EHR company and vendor that in fact your data is encrypted at rest as well as in motion. Number 6, unique user identification and password management. Every system needs to be able to allow you to create a unique user identification for each user in the practice. We run across practices that have a front desk unique user for that desktop, or a therapy unique user for that desktop or that laptop. Well, that's not HIPAA compliant. Every person within the practice needs to have a unique user identification as well as password to get in the system. That's the only way that you can assign specific roles to those unique users, your staff, your employees, your doctors, in order to be able to track, be able to give access to the appropriate level of PHI that they need to have within the system. And so as you think about this, your system, you should be able to go in on the administrative side and be able to create that unique username, that password, their electronic signature, security getting into the system. You should also be able to put into play when that password expires. And so you can see in this example, we've got the password expiring in 90 days. So let's talk about access authorization, establishment, and modification. So we must be able to grant access to staff members based on their role and minimum necessary information required to do their job. We've kind of mentioned this a couple of times already, and so your system needs to be able to do this. You need to be able to select the specific locations. If you're in a multiple location practice, satellites, you'll see in the left-hand side of the screen, you need to be able to create groupings of different types of departments, if you will, within the practice so that you can allocate specific roles. And think about your job descriptions that you have within your clinic system in your staff right now, and key it off those job descriptions as to what exactly does that front desk staff person need to have in terms of accessing PHI. What type of user privileges, that's what we're talking about here, are group privileges and specific user privileges. And so you'll take a provider, you'll put them in a group, and then you will begin to provide access specifically to that unique user based on the system and based on their role, if you will, of work that they do within the practice. And so you can see what's circled here. We've got the administration side of it, which gives access to everything within the system, running reports, going in through the back side of the EHR system, and setting privileges, that type of thing. Then you have your EMR or your EHR side, more the clinical record keeping side, and then you have the billing or practice management system access. And so essentially you have 3 levels of access overall, and then as you move further on, you should be able to select items within those 3 areas that you can specifically grant privileges to that user, whether you want them to have full privileges, view-only privileges, or none of the above. And so your EHR system should give you that lockdown capability so that you can protect PHI at a high level. Now, number 8 is very important, and I've seen some EHR systems not do very well in this department either, and this is called the automatic log off. And the key about this is that you should be able to automatically log off after failed attempts, and we recommend 3, but then secondly, that when this logs off, it needs to completely log the EHR out. Not just the window that you're in, it needs to completely log the whole EHR out, because it certainly defeats the purpose if the only thing that logs out is the window that you're in, and if somebody walks by or is able to get into the system. I mean, that's why the logout is created, not only for failed attempts, but then also as you think about how long should that computer be sitting there idle before somebody else would be able to sit down and get into it and access information that shouldn't be there. And so your EHR system should allow you some of these key features. Of course, we see in yellow, we talked about password expiring. In the green, you should be able to set the automatic log off, and you can see we have it set at 10 minutes. We recommend no more than 10 minutes within the practices, and then an automatic account lockout after 3 unsuccessful attempts. Now, this is a very important technological safeguard to be able to do these within your EHR system, in addition to identifying those specific roles within the practice. And number 9 is information system activity review, and we covered a couple of very specific areas of information system activity review, but essentially what this states is that having access to numerous audit logs, access reports, incident tracking reports, to be able to validate the performance of our safeguarding efforts, and to be able to run reports, to be able to detect any unauthorized access that could be in the system. And so your EHR system should be able to have an audit area where you can specifically fine-tune reports, be able to make selections in terms of the types of events that occur within the system, tracking users or areas that you want to track to make sure that you know what is being done in specific areas, and then running those reports on a periodic basis to be able to monitor what's going on with your system. And then finally, number 10, login monitoring, and this is very critical. Most doctors that I talk about don't even, they've never heard of this. And what we need to be able to do is that we need to be able to report any successful or unsuccessful attempts that are coming into our EHR system. Well, that is users or non-users trying to get into the system, into certain areas of the system, or non-users, hackers, if you will, trying to get into your system. And then how are we able to determine that? Well, your EHR system should, again, bring you to a screen that you can design a report, a very detailed, comprehensive report, to be able to detect, do we have any unsuccessful attempts coming into the system? Did everybody that is supposed to log in was able to log in? Who was it? What time? What date? Where did they go? And so all of this should be done. We recommend that this is performed initially on a weekly basis, and then you can move to a monthly basis on a login monitoring, and then you're able to detect any unusual activity that could be going on. Why is that important? Well, if a hacker is trying to get into your system, it's better to know that up front in unsuccessful attempts than for them to finally break through. And so if you're login monitoring and you pick up on that unusual activity, then what are you going to be doing? Well, I bet you anything, it was me, I'd be calling my IT people saying, we better update our firewall. You want to make sure you get your passwords updated and changed, all of the things that you can do to help protect it within the system, and notifying your EHR system and the like. And so this reporting, again, becomes a very integral component of safeguarding that protected health information that is entrusted to us. And so that kind of brings us down to the bottom line here, and it's all about security within our EHR system, within our clinics actually, but how do we deploy that EHR system to help us do that and actually meet some of those requirements? Well, what we did was we developed a list of questions that you can arm yourself with to understand how you can protect your PHI and how you can utilize your EHR system in order to be able to do that and be compliant with HIPAA. And so we covered all 10 key areas with 10 questions. So for instance, mechanism to authenticate. The question is how can you prove that the data has not been altered in your EHR system? And so bringing these questions to your EHR vendor and having them answer that and demonstrate within the EHR system is key for you to be able to understand so that you can be compliant to the HIPAA law. And so all of this security checklist is all downloadable. You can go right to our website. We're going to show you that in just a minute. But again, these 10 key areas, these 10 key questions that correspond to those key citations within HIPAA that directly involve your EHR system playing a role in helping you be compliant. I can't overstate the importance of us getting this all together so that you can have a good operational HIPAA program within your practice. And so again, what we've done is we put this together in a white paper. We've got the checklist questions. It's free. You can go ahead and download it at the ChiroArmor website. It's been great being with you today, and this has been Dr. Scott Munsterman, and hope that you have a great day.
Okay, everyone, that is a wrap. I like it when we can touch on a couple of things really quickly so that you still have your lunch hour to just breathe, get some food. Next week, we're going to have Dr. Corey Frogley. He's going to talk about the 3 secrets to unlocking practice cash flow. What are some of the most common clogs that he sees that are disrupting the revenue cycle? Then we're going to have Charles Waterloo, not a doctor, coming on talking about cost segregation and how this can really benefit your taxes. And then we're going to touch on E&M 2021 guidelines again with Dr. Mario Fictionary. So be on the lookout. We have some really great webinars coming up in the next couple of months. We'll be updating them constantly to let y'all know what's going on. So if y'all have any questions, suggestions for topic speakers that you would like to see in the upcoming months, just let us know. Hope you have an amazing rest of your day and a fabulous week. Bye, y'all.